and welcome back to World of Pets podcast. I am your host, David, and I've got my wonderful co host here, Anthony, the amazing Anthony, by the way, and our very favorite sponsor,
Don't lie.
Debbie. And, well, we never get to see Debbie. That's why I got to say that. But Debbie's on tonight, and you can support our cause and our business for pets and human health and wellness. Go to debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com. And you can also go see and help our engineer, um, Emily Golmer, and over on her podcast at World of Ability podcast on YouTube as well. So, with that, I'm going to tell you tonight's going to be a real treat because we finally get to talk about my favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. And so we're going to be talking about a nonprofit called uh, Project DieHard,
Project DieHard.
actually. And so with that, Anthony, go ahead.
But you'll get no debate out of me that that is a Christmas movie. I mean,
Exactly.
a lot of people will say it's not, but when you look at the setting of it, it's undebatable. A lot of people say pineapple goes on pizza too, but people are just they got problems. I mean, there's nothing that we can do about it.
I
Um,
like pineapple on pizza.
yeah,
See,
so
see,
does
that's
my
the
son.
point.
So you're not helping the cause any. But
That's
anyway,
right.
no, Project DieHard is something that for any of our regular listeners, that over the last 2 years is when Deb has had me on and off for a while as a guest on the podcast, and then eventually her responsibilities increased, and David and I took over a little more frequently and regularly as host. And one of the things that Deb and I have discovered through the last 2 years, I have discovered through Deb, is a thing called Project DieHard. Project DieHard is a nonprofit that works with veterans to provide a weekly breakfast for homeless veterans. And is
Monthly,
in the
monthly breakfast.
monthly. I'm sorry, you're right, monthly um, for homeless veterans, and get them off the street, get them a little bit of food in their belly. They've partnered with IHOP out there in Paducah, Kentucky, is where this thing is based out of. The work they're doing is incredible. They have recently built and are in the process of opening different types of housing for veterans. Some of that Deb will give a little more details on, where one of the facilities will be able to facilitate, I think it's 2 or 3 families. The other ones will be able to facilitate more just individual veterans. It's really a good work they're doing. It's incredible work. It's something that Deb and I, in part, are working on trying to get something sooner rather than later here in Southern Arizona so that we can participate in part of this. And so
Right.
next week, we have a special treat. We'll be coming to you guys. I don't know if it'll be live or if it'll be pre-recorded, but we will be coming to you guys from Project DieHard's headquarters in Paducah, Kentucky, and we'll be showing you some things and talking to you a little bit about that. Now, that's a little bit different than what we normally do on a week-to-week basis, and we, of course, have more. My dog is going nuts again. We have more sticks and pokers in the fire as far as animals and pet related, but it's nice to just show some of the other things that we are passionate about within the community and some of the things we want to do within the communities that we work with and that are close to our hearts. And so that's where Deb and I will be coming to you guys from next week.
Right. So
Oh, cool.
I found out about Project DieHard through some people that are on their board that I do virtual networking with. And I did get interested. Um, Brian Gibson is the founder and the president. He is a veteran himself. And so there's really two locations. Unfortunately, I always forget the name of the place in Illinois, but it's Paducah, Kentucky, and then about 30 minutes from there is Illinois, the southernmost part of Illinois. So, two phases, as Anthony said. Number one is the breakfast, and it is for all veterans, can have a free breakfast the first Wednesday of every month. So Brian's vision is that every single state will have this organization. And in every single state, there will be at least one location that hopefully at an IHOP will have this free breakfast always the first Wednesday of the month and always from 7 to 9 a.m. So that if a
Oh, wait, nobody
veteran
told me I had to get up that
someplace
early.
totally not familiar to them, that they can check with Project DieHard and see if if where they are has a free breakfast for veterans on the first Wednesday of the month. I think that is a brilliant model. I really like that. So the first one is the IHOP, as Anthony said, in Paducah. We will be there a week from Wednesday, he and I, to go to breakfast and see how they run it. And then the office and also the facility that Anthony referred to is in Illinois. They were gifted 20 acres and a 10,000 square foot building. So they're
Wow.
building out part of the building for housing for veterans up to a year who need support. Could be therapy support, it could be jobs, job training, just, or all of the above. But as far as we know, this is going to be the only veteran facility that will take families. It's only 2, so I'm sure it'll be popular, but 2 families, and then I believe it's 8 individuals. So they're still raising money for the build out of this 10,000 square foot building, and that is Brian's thing right now. That is the most popular. No, that wouldn't be the right word. That's the most urgent thing right now because there are veterans who do need the help, and there are veteran families. If there's no place else that you can actually take your family to, then definitely need that as soon as we can get it. So Emily, can you put those pictures up? After next week, we'll definitely be able to tell you more about the pictures, but where the greenery is, you have an idea that that's part of the 20 acres. So we'll go ahead. Anthony, what did I miss out on?
Not a whole lot. When you were speaking, it reminded me, you said that, this is the first building that they have. And this takes a lot of money. I mean, I think I heard a number of $13,000 somewhere, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that's needed for certain things. And, but I'm reminded of an old gospel song I used to sing in church as a kid, and that is little as much when God is in it. And so I think if we just keep staying faithful in prayer and keep staying faithful in volunteerism and keep staying faithful and getting the word out there, that God will take what is little and make it into much. And so I'm excited about the future of Project DieHard.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it's a lot more than 13,000 that they need to finish.
Yeah, I don't know where that number, I heard that number at some point today. My days begin to mesh together. I've been dealing with a lot of organizations and nonprofits, and I've had multiple meetings this week, but somewhere along the way, the number $13,000 was meshed in there somewhere.
Yeah. It's over. I know it's over 100,000, and it might be closer to 1 million that they need. One of the problems is that there's not, there's obviously bathrooms. They're not going to build a 10,000 square foot building that has no bathrooms, but it does not have shower facilities. So that's obviously an expensive piece.
Yeah.
So you can see the pictures there, the 20 acres, couple pictures of the inside. They have been using it for, to rent out for community events. But they are at this point, they do have a fairly large chunk of that 10,000 square feet that they're using to build out for the facilities, which are our bedrooms, really. I believe I don't think there's I don't think that there's a communal living space, a living room or kitchen. I think that will be communal. But
I mean, that's very good because even in Colorado, I don't think I've heard of any veteran programs that will house, will help the whole family. They'll just help the individual veterans with
right.
treatment and care. So that's really a big thing. I think that's super valuable to be putting out there.
Yep. Yep. I agree. So you can see on that bottom, you can't see it real well, but part of it is for the bedrooms, and I'm thinking the other part is for the communal part that'll, the living room, kitchen, so forth. It's small enough that I'm really not positive, but but it does give you an idea.
Yeah.
And they've talked about a lot of things. I know that the podcast is called That World of Pets, but they have talked about maybe having like a dog trainer there, and whatever kind of activities they're having at the Project DieHard facility, then that would be the veterans would be incorporated into that. So if they had a dog trainer, then they would be teaching some of the veterans how to train the dogs.
Yeah, very good. I mean, everybody needs a service dog, especially me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's another aspect of the program. One thing here in Tucson, while I figured that doing the housing piece was a little bit too much for me, but we have Anthony and I have talked to Scott Tilley. He is the founder of TRAC, which is a therapeutic ranch. Deals not only with horses, but other kinds of animals as well. And he is also willing to partner with us so that even though we don't have the living facilities to offer, we would still have that animal therapy. Can you,
Very good.
Anthony, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about what we talked about to Scott, and then share with people your own vision for your own nonprofit?
So, I am in the process of hopefully getting the name for my nonprofit approved. If that gets approved, it will be called Gilead Ranch, because scripturally, the balm of Gilead was always known as something of a healing balm. And then Gilead was the name of a city where people would go in the Old Testament to provide from the healing waters. They're called Gilead to be healing waters. And so that's what we want Gilead Ranch to be, is a place of healing for veterans, but also for non-veterans alike. But as I've mentioned in the past, our primary focus will be veterans. What Scott Tilley is doing here in Tucson, or in the Tucson area, is very similar to what I want to do, and that is using animal-assisted therapy to provide therapeutic remedies for disabled individuals. Again, my primary focus would be veterans. It would not be exclusive, but it would be the primary focus. Scott Tilley is open to a lot more than that. He works a lot with people with all kinds of disabilities, but very good work he's doing. He has said that he would be willing, as Deb said, to work with us if we can get something in partnership with Project DieHard here in the near future, which is one of our goals. And again, I think it's time to have another team meeting about that, and we'll do that offline. But yeah, I do think, that the future here looks bright, and I just can't help but thinking of, even in my own future, I have a 10-year plan now actually written out as to what I'd like to see for Gilead Ranch, if that ends up being the name. And within the next 5 years, I'd like to either have property donated or have property purchased, but definitely within the next 5 years, have a location selected as far as the state and where it's going to be. I know the general region of where I want it to be, and that's where climates are a little more steady and temperate. In Arizona, it's just too hot to constantly be open grazing your animals. Number one, they can get heat exhaustion just like human beings can. Any land dwelling mammal can. Number two, the vegetation just doesn't grow out here fast enough for open feeding or grazing, what you consider to be graze feeding. So you have to provide supplemental feeding, which is like hay, grain, things of that nature for most of these animals, other types of feed for these animals. Well, that can get expensive. That can get very expensive, especially when you're dealing with larger animals like cattle or horses or animals of that nature that are of the larger breeds. Supplemental feeding can get very expensive. So I'm looking, I have some states in mind, about 6 or 7 states that I'd like to look in different regions. And once that has happened, I've secured a location. I'd really like to partner with things like if I can get a facility that's an actual working ranch and we can kind of do a cooperative with other nonprofits such as Project DieHard in the future, then we would have a second facility where veterans can not just come to live, but also be provided therapy under both umbrellas. So I'd be willing to partner with other. I'm not saying it has to be Project DieHard. From everything I've seen, I'd love to work with them, but you never know what the future holds. And I don't want to get into any legal things at this point because none of this is for sure yet. But that's something like that. When I look at the future, those are the type of things I'm excited with. That could provide growth, not just for Gilead Ranch, but for an organization such as Project DieHard. It could provide growth for organizations like that and having the partnership together. And so, and then with a guy like Scott, he's done it here in Tucson for all times of people. So to have his expertise and to be able to lean on him as well. And so, I think both what Scott is doing, what Project DieHard is doing, and what the future of the possible name of Gilead Ranch looks like, I believe is very encouraging for veterans primarily, but also for just nonprofits and individuals that get away. I personally would like to provide the full cowboy experience. Like, I'd partner with churches to do couples retreats where you can come sign up for a 3-day cowboy camping trip where we bring the chuck wagon out to you. You have the whole cooking experience. You ride horses out there, the whole 9 yards. But we'll just see what the future holds. But again, the primary focus would be the whole reason for the veterans and for the facility would be to provide those horses that the veterans take care of. And through that, taking care of those horses and being around those animals and getting the emotional attachment to those animals is therapeutic. There's all kinds of science and medicine and psychology that backs this up. This is not an unheard of thing. It's really grown in popularity. Animal assisted therapy has grown in popularity over the last 2 decades. And it's proven to have great, great results. And so that is something that I'm looking forward to in the future.
Yeah. David, let's let you jump in.
Man, I just think that's a great vision. And I know you guys are networked very well for that, project moving forward. I can't wait to see it. I'd love to see something like that in Colorado that, I could be close to my family, but still volunteer out there and help as I could. But no matter where you guys land on that project, it's going to be good. And I love the name because we are all about pet and human wellness and healing now. And Gilead, man, was literally that's just the best name you could have picked. Gilead Ranch. I'm
I have
just
to be honest.
awesome.
I didn't do that alone. If my dad ever hears this and I don't tell him that I was riding in his truck, in his Ram with him one day, we were talking about the ranch in the future, and they're behind it. My parents have been so supportive of this; they're behind it 100%. And my dad was like, "Well, how about Gilead Ranch?" I'd never thought of that, and he just rattled off a couple Bible verses that referred to the realm of Gilead and to the town of Gilead. And I thought,
Yeah,
that's a great name, and so
it
I have
is.
credit where credit's due.
Yeah, well,
Right.
and that's good. That's good because sometimes it's all in the name, and the name gives direction. Biblical names were given intentionally; they all had meaning, etc. That runs deep in my family. With our names as well. My sister's name is Dawn because the dawns are beautiful in the morning. And you wake up to the sun rising and the Spirit of God just moving right into your day. So, and of course, the giant slayer, me. But
I love it, buddy. I love it.
But yeah, Deb, do you have anything else? Is there a couple more pictures that you were going to share?
I think that was it.
Okay.
The couple of them weren't real clear. Um, so a couple of things. Number one, if you are in the Tucson area and you haven't heard of track before, their primary their primary focus is on autistic individuals, children. Um, so that's just something for you to keep in mind if you should need those services. But it's not solely that, but that is the majority of their focus. Um, he has worked with veterans in the past, he said, and said that he would be willing to do that again. So we will, as Anthony said, we will be meeting with him when we come back from our trip. And so we're pretty excited about this. And I'm wondering, Anthony, if maybe it seems like the part that you're tackling is the part that's more difficult to finish. So maybe you could do wherever you land your property. Maybe you could also do the breakfast under the auspices of Project DieHard.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be
But
willing, like I
have
said,
your actual service to the veterans
yep.
at Gilead's Ranch or whatever you decide to name it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, let's see what the future holds. The first step is like I said, the next 5 years is selecting that location and figuring out 100% where it's going to be, and God willing, also be able to have a property that we're at least close to securing on in that particular area. And so, that would be the first step. And then, yeah, going out this week to Kentucky to meet with Brian and the people out there is going to be a big part of, I feel like, a relationship building and seeing what these multiple organizations can do together, hopefully in the future, and impact the future. I know that people think, well, 10 years it comes quick. Trust me. My oldest kid's 15 and a half and driving, and like, that'll make your faith become real. But I never thought that would happen so fast. And, it's one of those things that, like I said, within the next 5 years, we could have a location, or we're going to have a location selected, and,
Right.
and figuring that out, and hopefully have a property. So, and then the last 5 years will be spent hopefully getting the funding and getting the property up to snuff. So my goal would be that by year 9, I'm transitioning between the two places. The reason I'm in Tucson is my kids. I'm a divorced individual. I have 50% custody of my children. I share that with their mother. And so I need to be here. I need to be here. I won't be away from my kids. And so, but my son's senior year of high school, my other two will already be out in college or out on their own at that point. So my son's senior year of high school, I'll be able to go back and forth between the two places. So I'll be able to spend a week here, and hopefully in that 9th year, by that 9th year mark, when he's a senior in high school, 9 years from now, I'll be able to go out there and be hands-on and getting the location ready, putting the final touches on it, making sure the stables and the pastures and the buildings and everything's ready to go and transitioning smoothly. And so basically I'll be able to move out there in year 9 would be the goal.
Mom says hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, there you are.
It's her first time being on the podcast.
Right. Well,
All right, bye, Mom. I'll let you know when
a
I'm
couple
done.
of things I'd like to add.
Pretty soon.
Number one, we talked about horses, and that is important. Most animals will bond. I mean, some of the things that I see on LinkedIn are animals that you would never think would relate to people, but yet they'll come up to a person. It'll turn out that their children or spouse or whatever, I guess you would call it in the animal world as well, is in trouble, and they lead the person to that. Hopefully these aren't all Photoshop, because they're great stories.
Right.
And the people will help them, and then they will bond with that person
Yeah.
and visit them. And it just, so I think that's just an example of how important animals are to us. But as in addition to the horses, and especially if you're going to have children around, that horses are sort of intimidating. Don't forget about those dogs and cats, and
Mhm.
the fact that you have them around and they can make wonderful companions for children as well as adults.
Well, and the animals have a tendency to bond as well, So you get
Yes,
a dog involved with horses or cows or whatever, they're still going to bond and they're going to respect one another. They're going to rely on one another for safety and alertness too. So, and it's a whole natural thing that thank goodness we have a wonderful creator that's put all these things into place for us to enjoy. We just have to learn how to use the tools. Is really what it comes down to.
right.
And I love the idea of therapy dogs. I think David had mentioned it earlier, needing a service animal. And I've seen some things over the last 2 or 3 years about how to provide service animals to not just veterans, but also to disabled individuals that maybe don't have the income. It can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $90,000 to get a service animal trained. And I think it's something somewhere along the line of 90% of insurance companies don't cover that. They won't
Yeah.
provide that service. So I can't say too much for legal reasons and because I don't know what exactly the outcomes are going to be. But in the next month, I have a couple of different meetings with different officials and individuals where I'd like to talk about an idea here locally and within our state to try to get modeled after some of the things I've seen over the last 3 years to try to get more service animals just like what we've been talking about right now
Hmm.
in the hands of children and veterans and
Right.
underprivileged adults um, as they need them. And my idea would do two things. Number one, it would help the individuals who need them first and foremost. It would help the humans. But number two, it would also help the overrun animal shelters.
Hmm.
And some of these, unfortunately, are having to put animals down because they just don't have homes and rooms and things like that for animals. And if we can partner these two things together and provide a service for both, it should be a no-brainer. And so that's my idea. I'll be presenting it to different individuals. Again, I can't say too much about that right now. Hopefully in the future, I'm giving you all some more details about that, and it's going to be a good thing. But I agree. Dogs, especially, are really good at making this kind of companionship. More and more hospitals and hospice facilities are opening up their buildings and facilities to have people with dogs come in and provide emotional and psychological support to their patients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They even have one I had to drop a friend off up at the Denver airport, and a lady came through with the service dog. I was like, "Oh, where are you taking your puppy?" She's like,
Mhm.
"To see all the people here." So it helps keep people calm that are under anxiety or flight delays and stuff like that. I'm like, how simple is that? I want that job, you know. But she
Right.
just volunteers her time and her animal to do it, and I mean, that's just the beauty of people's kind-heartedness when it comes to animals. I think animals make people nicer, anyways. So
I'll be
Right.
right back. I gotta go deal with something real
Agree with
quick.
that. So, um, one other thing before we close out, or a couple other things, I guess. Sorry. Um, Last week we had Dr. Kelly Barrett. She is a vet, but she only deals in end of life care, and she did have some great advice for people, for the people, and for the people dealing with dealing with the animals who are left behind when one of their
yeah.
brothers or sisters has to be put down.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend for you to go find last week's episode on YouTube and take a listen to it. And the other thing I wanted to say in closing, and then I'll hand it over to David, but Brian Gibson, founder and president of Project DieHard, always says God will never leave the mission.
Hmm.
He was offered by an individual $2 million, which could have finished the build out that they need to do on that building and then had some left over.
Yeah.
Turned it down because that person, in exchange for that $2 million, wanted him to have no reference to God or the Bible
Oh man.
in Project DieHard.
I mean, don't make me turn this into prayer time, Debbie.
I know, but I think that says so much
Yeah.
for, for the mission.
Well, for the mission and just to see the state of the world we're in and how much we are needed out there, to have such a mission given to us, it's not by an accident that we have giving hearts and that we want to help other people. That's not by accident, but it's also not everybody. So some people out there need the help and others are out there to give the help. And I believe that we're all destined to give help. So,
Yeah. Okay, David, go ahead and close us out.
all right, will do. Thanks again for joining us here on World of Pets podcast. And to go help our sponsors, they will help further this dream of helping veterans and animals. Go to debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com. Anthony, good to see you again. Deb, always a pleasure to have you on the show when we get a chance. And
Yep.
Emily, thank you again for hosting. Really appreciate you. You can go support Emily over at World of Ability podcast, also on YouTube. So with that, God bless you all. Anthony, you want to close us out?
Absolutely. And woo woo, Emily. We give you a shout out always. We love Emily. As always, man, we love you and your creator loves you. And we just want to put out there to anybody, whether a veteran, whether not a veteran, that is going through a hard time, struggling, whether you're thinking about is life worth living, whether you're thinking about the hardships you're going through, whatever the situation may be, we want to be the shoulder that you can lean on and the people that you can talk to. And you hear me say it all the time. It becomes cliche, but it's still true. And that is, we'd rather have a 3 a.m. conversation with you than to wake up a few hours later and hear your name on the headlines because you did something that can't be undone. And we would much rather do that. We're open to it. We would like to do that. I check this podcast multiple times a week on YouTube. I just check the comments and scroll through and see what's there. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. And we love you. Go in peace and God bless.
Yes. Thank you all.
God bless you all.